All right. Hi, everyone. We're very happy to have you all join us today for this timely and insightful webinar. Before we jump in, just want to highlight a few quick notes. Yes, we are recording today's session, and we'll be sending it to all who registered. For those who can't be here, don't worry. I was looking at Harvest Watch this morning, and looks like Harvest is already kicked off for some of you, so totally understand. For all of you who are here with us today, which it looks like there are a lot of you, we have a great panel discussion set up and want to welcome your questions throughout the webinar. Just drop them in the QA box or comment box, and we'll save some time at the end to get them answered. And while we're at it, let's do a quick mic check to make sure that thing is working for us. Can we get everyone to drop a quick line in the chat with where you're joining us from while we're finishing getting set up over here? And also, if you run into any technical issues, audio or video, try refreshing your browser. 9 times out of 10, that usually does the trick. So hopefully that works. And once again, we're recording this. Wow, look at the chat box going. Okay, we got Sonoma, Napa, Canada, New York, BC, Ohio, Virginia. Oh, this is great. Awesome. Thank you guys all for joining us today. Super exciting. We're pumped to have Commerce7 co-hosting this webinar with us today, and we have such a great and incredible diverse group of industry leaders who you'll get to meet very soon. Jumping in here, for those of you who don't know much about InnoVint, we are basically, we deeply care about helping wineries operate healthy and thriving businesses. Wineries use our modern operating system to make winemaking operations, compliance, cost tracking, and winery ownership simple and help elevate their decision making. And for those of you who know InnoVint, you've probably been asking yourself over the past week why InnoVint is co-hosting a webinar about strengthening direct-to-consumer sales. That's why Commerce7's here, right? My name's Kevin Williams. I've been in the wine tech space for over 10 years and have worked with wineries all over the world, helping to evolve their businesses and their technologies. I'm InnoVint's customer growth director and work hand in hand with many of our customers to help them level up and achieve their operational and financial objectives. I would like to invite Jeff Carroll and Commerce7 to the screen for a quick introduction.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to some. My name is Jeff Carroll, and I'm the Vice President of Partnerships at Commerce7. My role is actually pretty simple. I'm in charge of making sure that partners like InnoVint have a great experience working with Commerce7 and supporting our mutual clients. Commerce7 is an incredibly extensible platform. We pride ourselves on not just having fully open APIs, but also on the ease of integration for our partners. We have an app marketplace, which allows partners to integrate against our platform and also even insert capabilities into the Commerce7 UI. So we provide, as you can see on the screen today, the core capabilities of e-commerce, wine club management, CRM, reservations, and point of sale. And then we provide tools for partners like InnoVint to extend the platform and build awesome things on top of it. It's a real pleasure to be here today. I'm excited about this new supply app, and I want to really thank our friends at InnoVint for putting this together, and for our incredible panelists for sharing the knowledge that they have with you all today. So thanks again. Back to you, Kevin.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm sure most of you guys know Jeff. He's been at the forefront of wine technology for many years. So Jeff, thanks for being here with us today. One of the most common challenges we hear from wineries, doesn't matter the size, is that inventory tracking is hard. Do any of you feel that way? Like it's way more complicated than it needs to be? Drop a hand in the chat if that strums a chord for you. You're not the only one. Over the last few years, we've been digging deeply to understand what makes inventory tracking so frustrating and how might we be able to help. As Jeff mentioned earlier this year, InnoVint launched Supply, which is a comprehensive case goods management system to help simplify inventory management and unlock smarter sales planning and execution. And what we've learned is clear. When winery teams and systems are connected and have accurate visibility into inventory and sales data, they become a powerful catalyst for driving revenue and improving margins. And that's why I'm so excited for today's discussion. We've brought together a unique group of industry leaders across multiple wine regions and different flavors of wine businesses to share their real world examples, experiences, and insights. And our goal today is really to just equip you with practical strategies to take back to the team, to strengthen your direct to consumer sales, to advance your inventory management, and to empower you to drive smarter business decisions. Now, let's go ahead and meet our panel. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and I will pass it over to you, Cathy, to kick us off.
Hi, I'm Cathy Pedroncelli. I'm VP of Finance here at Pedroncelli Winery. We are 50,000 case winery in the Dry Creek Valley in northern Sonoma County in Northern California. We're going on our 98th year in business, and our mix is we're about 80% wholesale. We sell about 80% wholesale around, and then about 20% DTC. We do have a tasting here. So yes, inventory is a challenge. Happy to share what I've learned along the way, and happy to be here.
Thanks, Cathy. And Larry, let's pass it over to you to introduce yourself and Boehner-Moore.
So I'm Larry Harris. I'm the owner and winemaker at Barron-Moore Cellars. Unlike Cathy, we are a rather younger winery. We opened our tasting room just over 4 years ago after planting our estate vineyard back in 2011. We've grown rather quickly since opening our tasting room. We started about 1,200 cases when we opened. We're at about 4,500 cases now, just over that 4-year span. So growth has been pretty fortunate for us. We've done pretty well. We're about 97% DTC with a little bit of wholesale that's all done just by our small little team. My background is, in addition to being an owner and winemaker, I'm also a registered patent attorney. I live on the nerdy side of the world. I spend a lot of my time in machine learning, artificial intelligence, mathematics, electronics. So I like to operate in the front leading edge of where this industry is headed.
Thanks, Larry. And finally, we have Melissa at Linganore.
Hey there, I'm Melissa Aellen. I'm the Director of Winery Operations at Linganore Wine Cellars. We are about almost 50 years old. We're 49 years old, so right between the two. And located out here in Mount Airy, Maryland, so kind of central Maryland, a little north of DC and west of Baltimore. We produce about 40,000 cases a year. About 60% of that is wholesale, a little less right now, 40% DTC. And we just opened up another brand in a downtown location about 9 months ago. So I run all operations and inventory across 2 brands in 4 different locations. So it's always has its challenges.
Thanks, Melissa. And thank you all for being here. And now we're going to dive into the panel discussion. We're going to focus on 3 fundamental topics for strengthening direct-to-consumer sales and simplifying inventory. And the topics we want to cover today are, number 1, technology. Number 2, we'll be leaning into metrics and KPIs, and we'll be finishing off with decision-making and what that's unlocked for these businesses. Jumping in and starting off with technology, as we know, it's never been more accessible or more critical in this time. Most wineries are already using it in one way or another, so it's only natural we kick things off by hearing what our winery leaders have learned from their own technology journeys. And I'll start with Larry to kick us off. Larry, you mentioned your interesting background in technology, and given that experience, curious to get your insights for what you look for in technology solutions and how it's impacted how you run your business.
I think first and foremost for me, as we started the winery and as we started sales, we were looking for technology that could grow with us, which to me requires technology that's, built in this decade, has open APIs, has the ability to integrate with different systems. Because the one thing that technology is creating is a constant amount of change, whether it be new technology, new features, new changes. And so when we were looking at technology, we were with a different solution before Commerce7 that I quickly realized that it didn't have the open APIs and the infrastructure that we needed. So we made the quick decision to switch to Commerce7, so we could have those features, so we could, design our website however we wanted and using any type of web interface that we wanted, so that we could integrate with other systems, InnoVint being one of the particular ones, because I started with InnoVint with our first lot of wine that we ever created. So I've got every little thing that I've ever done to every wine in there. And having technology that we can quickly move in and out and integrate with, whether it be through other professional platforms or our own platforms, or as artificial intelligence is coming more online, with the open APIs that Commerce7 and InnoVint have, those integrations are going to be easy, and we're going to be able to continue to grow. So those are the critical pieces for me.
That's great, Larry. And Cathy, just calling you out on the whole other side of the spectrum. Your winery's been established for about 100 years. What's been your experience, with technology solutions in the past? And if you were advising another winery on tech adoption or evolution, what would you tell them to prioritize?
Well, yes. So we came from, handwritten inventory management, Excel, some other software solutions. I think the first thing, just like Larry said, to make sure you have the right solution for your unique winery. Even though we're all in the wine industry, every winery is different. So I would just say, make sure you have that. Don't be afraid to change it up. This is not working for us. It's so much better just to start over again. And also just make sure that you've got your backup, and that you're entering the information that you want to follow. And also you have to kind of think about what you want out of it. What are the reports I want out? What is the information I want out? That would be I think super important. And also don't be afraid of technology. It's actually kind of fun. And these every day is different. Even InnoVint and Commerce7, they're changing all the time. I love it. So it's just it takes time, but it's time well invested in technology.
That's great, Cathy. And, appreciate the intentional focus on knowing what you want and having, those thoughts and alignment dialed in before just making a decision off that front. Melissa, passing it over to you, can you walk us through some of the different systems that you've been using to manage your DTC and inventory over the years before they were connected? And how did you keep your teams aligned? And what did your process look like?
Yeah, so we hopped over to digital management software of inventory back in 2017 was our first way into that. Prior to that, we had a sign-out sheet on a clipboard in our warehouse, and you had to put your initials in which case you took and how many cases you took, and make sure you had the volume right, because some of our SKUs we have in different volumes. And then my mom would sit there and enter it all into the computer. And it took hours and hours and hours. So then we hopped over into MicroWorks back in 2017, and it integrated into the POS, but it didn't do anything for the production side. So there was still a lot of double entry that was going on. And then we jumped to another platform that was like quasi integrated, but it wasn't quite flowing very smoothly. And there was a lot of hiccups when running Wine Club. And we just ended up in the system where, despite technology seeming as if it was a good deal and that it was going to work, it really didn't. And it led to a lot of double entry errors, especially with our wholesaling, like sending out a pallet of something that wasn't what we were supposed to be sending out, or depleted it in the inventory, but actually didn't leave, that sort of situation. And not having real-time inventory of what's happening in our tasting room. The most we could go from was like what we took out because we knew what left, but we don't know what's sold. How much is sitting in the tasting room right now, what's available. So we went through a lot of different changes and then finally came to a complete inventory and production and POS solution all, within the last year or so. And it's taken hours off of not only excise tax and inventory management, just everyone else's time for not having to double enter, into this system and that system. And then once you get QuickBooks in there, it's a whole other system, right? So someone's got to make an invoice somewhere. So, there's a lot that having those integrations, like Larry was talking about, who has the API focus that will allow for this to be easier and streamline your life. If you're going to pay for this technology, it should not make it more difficult.
Absolutely. That's great. Larry, Cathy, any examples you guys have about maybe previously manual or disconnected processes and how your technology transformation has streamlined that?
Yeah, so we would, I think it's the age-old thing. So what, you have to know what you have for sale and so in order to sell it. So we would sometimes there, like Melissa said, the double entry or the double transfers out, and we don't have this wine in the warehouse. Person would say, we have a pallet of it, and they, oh my gosh, or you're changing vintages, and we want to make sure we're changing at the right time. So those were the big challenges. And also I think having everybody on the team being able to see in real time the inventory right now, and then they'll come to me and say, hey, Cathy, this is off by 10 cases, or this is off by 2 pallets, or whatever it is. We can focus on what happened. Was it an error or a counting error or something like that? And we can fix it right away in real time. And that's super, it's been really helpful.
Yeah, I think similar for me, not even just a few months ago when Supply launched the inventory tracking side for InnoVint. Before that, we were using the production side of InnoVint to track all of our case goods as kind of our ground truth. And so every month we would do a physical inventory and try and reconcile between Commerce7, what it was showing in inventory, and what our physical count showed in inventory, and what production side of an InnoVint showed in inventory, which would take, 10, 15, 20 hours to finally reconcile that stuff because I get down to the level of detail that I want. But was bringing Supply on board, which is, completely integrated with Commerce7, that's taken it from, 10, 15, 20 hours a month to maybe 1 or 2, which is a huge increase in efficiency for me. And when you do have a discrepancy of, somebody forgot to transfer a case from the warehouse to the tasting room, it's easy to find because you can go back and see, in bulk of what things were moved in Supply. So it's easy to find and reconcile stuff a whole lot quicker than trying just to go back through the infinite array of entries and transactions in other entry systems. So that's been the biggest win for me over the past several years of just bringing that system in.
And I would add too, I really like bottles. So we do cases and bottles, and so I like how it Supply is very seamlessly with Commerce7 in the bottles. I can see cases and bottles all in one line. In our previous system, we had to have singles and cases, and that was our inventory list was huge. So and then Commerce7 integrates so well because it's just a daily upload of this is what we sold in the tasting room that day, and the inventory is done. And like Larry said, it really does save hours and hours each month.
And that's a good thing, Cathy, like what you mentioned, like when you're looking at systems and you mentioned reporting, think about how you want to view the data. Like in some systems, I looked at inventory in number of bottles. And so I was spending my entire day dividing things by 12. But then in another system, I looked at it as number of cases. And then I got really good at that. A fraction of a case, one bottle is 0.083 case. Yeah. Like, why do I need to know that? Right. So like having it as, cases and bottles makes it a lot easier. And that has definitely taken like a mental load off the number of times I would type in 12 when I was supposed to be typing in 144, or vice versa. Right. Yeah, that double entry and that just straight up error doesn't happen anymore.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, I want to pass it over to Jeff here to move to our next segment. Super insightful. Thank you guys all. Moving over to metrics and KPIs. Jeff, do you want to take over here?
Yeah, sounds good. I think before I jump into metrics and KPIs, I want to follow up on a question. So Larry or Cathy or anybody, if you're saving up to 15 hours, can you give us a little insight into, the types of things that you're able to do now that you weren't before with that time?
Leap.
All the other things.
There's so much.
I think, for us being, we're a very small shop on the production side. I mean, it's myself and assistant winemaker and using my vineyard manager. So it gives us the freedom to spend time on other things, honestly, a lot of my time at the end of the month is that I spend, instead of reconciling inventory, would be planning for the next month and the next quarter, and doing forward-looking things with the data, which, I mean, we'll get to decision-making and metrics and everything else of looking at the data that we have that's accessible as opposed to trying to clean the data up so we can look at it.
Exactly. Yes. So much time is looking backward, right?
Yeah.
And what happened in that month, where you want to be like, okay, what sold the best? Do we need to, have another sale or whatever it is? And so, yes, the forward looking is the most important. And sometimes you just don't have time to do that if you're mired in trying to get the past month or the past year up to speed. So.
Love it. That's a good segue. So, Cathy, I might stay with you on this one. We all know how important it is to keep an eye on the data, and I guess specifically to DTC and running your DTC program. Which metrics or KPIs are you watching most closely?
For us, we watch a number of people in tasting room. What did they buy? What is the amount per customer that they bought? How could we, is our team closing the sale? What can we offer in addition to that? Maybe there's some, these wines are really popular, like in this past 6 months. Can we offer a package? Can we do that? Those are the kind of things that we're looking for. It's that kind of data. It has to revolve around the customer. The customer is the number one. What are they wanting? Are they wanting, with Commerce7, we use their reservation system. So what reservations are the most popular? That kind of thing. Those are what we look at on really almost a daily basis. Or when we're doing our demand plan or our monthly sales meetings. This is what we're seeing, and the ability to pivot and not, okay, last year this sold great. Well, we don't, again, it doesn't matter what last year, it matters what, is the most current. What are people wanting now? Those are the kinds of things we look for. And also, traffic is a big one right now for us. It's a big one to be tracking, and how are our outreach, how is our outreach doing for us, and that kind of thing.
Right. Melissa, Larry, do you want to expand on that at all about the metrics that you're tracking on top of those that Cathy outlined?
I mean, those are all a lot of the same metrics, average order value and number of customers. We also look at conversion rate for wine club. So if we've got customers coming in, if you have a club, you should be trying to see how often you're able to convert that tasting customer, and is it a first-time visitor?
Yes.
And then one of the other things we spend some time looking at is who on our team is great at converting as well. It's not just an external, it's also an internal, and we can learn and grow, whether collecting data or converting or even making the sale, trying to learn internally as well.
Yeah, and I'll kind of parrot those on on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis. We're looking at AOV and guest counts and club conversion rates and wine club conversion rates and wine sales rates. Kind of looking forward, one of the things we look at is as a winery that's growing, we're trying to figure out how much fruit I need to buy this year and how much wine to produce for stuff I'm going to release in 3 years. So having the ability to look at data on a larger macro scale of not only how many cases I need, but what varietals do I need? Which ones are our customers buying? Which ones are high velocity? Which ones are cannibalizing other wines? And making strategic decisions now that are going to impact us 2 or 3 years from now. And without the data to look at, you're kind of just crystal ball guessing, right? Other things we look at is demographics of our customers, right? Where they live, what's the age range, and then what do we see in purchase patterns of those different age ranges. We also sell food in our tasting room, so being able to look at the combination of the average order value when people purchase food versus don't purchase food, and how those experiences play differently, which we're seeing is a lot different for different age groups.
Love it. So I wonder if we can get a little insight into how you operationalize some of these metrics. So for example, how frequently are you looking at, do you have a specific cadence that you're looking at these? And then on top of you all looking at the data points that you identified, would really love to hear more about how you work with your team and how you provide visibility into the team and how the team is making decisions and kind of operationalizing these metrics. Any one of you. I don't know, Melissa, do you want to start with that one?
Sure, I can take that one. So out of all the metrics we just mentioned, we usually look at them on more of a monthly basis, but on a relatively daily or weekly basis, we're looking at just daily sales in general, right? A sales number, how did we do a Saturday? Oh man, it rained again on a Saturday? Why? All those things. So you do that, you kind of sit with more on a weekly basis. Our director of sales takes time to look at all those metrics, and once a month we review it with the sales and marketing team, and from there we make the next month's plan of this is where we want to go given the goal that we have for that quarter or even for the year. So we are trying to be as external. It's nice. If you haven't read or heard about this great game of business, I highly recommend reading a book where it talks about how everyone is playing this game and everyone needs to know what's going on, from your top level executive all the way down to the person who mops your floor, because with unmopped floor, it doesn't give the impression that they want to spend $90 on a bottle of wine. So, it goes all the way up. And though we don't quite do all open book management, we do as much as we can to share a lot of these KPIs. This is where our goal was, this is where we are, this is what we can do, or what can we do, brainstorm. A lot of ideas come from places that aren't sitting at a conference room table. And really get people involved to figure out how we can move and change into what the directions are that we're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also leaning into your staff, the people on the front line, like the tasting room staff. Hey, we released this wine. What are you hearing about it? Do people like it? Do they like this Sauvignon Blanc versus this Reserve Sauvignon Blanc? And we taste them side by side and that kind of thing. What are those? Like Melissa said, we on a monthly basis, we'll do our demand plan and our inventory workout and forecast it based on the sales. But so that's how we use it. And just I think, like I said before, just having everybody with knowing what the inventory numbers are. And it's really all about the forward planning, the next month's plan, the next holiday plan, that kind of thing.
I think, and ours is similar. We have, every day at the end of the day, or I guess every morning, an email goes out for the day before that has all the metrics we've been talking about. And it goes to literally everyone on our team, all the way down to our part-time people. So Melissa said, we pretty much follow an open book of the more I can share with my team, the less there is, the less suspicion there is. Especially a growing winery, I want everybody to know how we're doing, so they take ownership and making sure they're part of that, and helping build our wine club signups and helping set our goals. And we set goals around everything on a monthly basis and a quarterly basis. So obviously we use our data from the prior year to set those goals. We also use ours on a monthly and quarterly basis to do planning, not just for the next month, but for the next 6 months of the next year, for setting our bigger events. Because you can see purchase trends before and after those events, not only just at the event, but how behavior occurs after those events. especially like a big wine club release party. And then you typically see a smaller dip after that for a little while. But seeing those activities and making sure that you're spreading out your winemakers' dinners and your events and different things at different times, so that you keep a consistent flow and a consistent growth, which also helps with the marketing cadence, right? When you have these events at scheduled times, you can market around them and drive your traffic and drive your energy and drive the momentum of your business going forward. But you got to be able to look at which ones of those things are moving the needle and worth spending time and effort with.
I love it. So, Kevin, I think that's a really good transition to our next topic on decision making.
For sure. Absolutely. Super insightful and couldn't agree more, with empowering your team and the transparency you guys all bring with these business metrics. It is very powerful to have the whole tribe on board and working, in the same direction here. And then, so pivoting to our last topic here, decision making, given the regular cadence we just talked about, the metrics that you guys are tracking, I'm curious to dive into, what this has unlocked for each of you with decision making within your organization. And starting off with kind of a pointed question, how has, your connected systems, inventory and DTC improved communication across the different departments, sales, finance, production teams? Can any of you share an example?
Yeah, I can. I was thinking back, I have an intern with me this summer, and she was scanning some old paperwork from the 80s and 90s today, old COLA submissions and things like that. And it brought me back to distributor orders of yesteryear. And we would constantly be back ordering. The distributor would order, we'd be like, yeah, we've got it. But like nobody was able to actually check that we had it, and the communication to the winemaker wasn't happening. The one person who could check it. And then they'd get here and like, wait, where's our 2 pallets? Like, oh, we have to back order you because no one's, checking with production and no one's checking in the cellar. In this past 9 months, we actually had to build a new office. So all of our office staff, including the person who makes these orders, was off-site, but he was able to log in and see, okay, this is exactly how much we have in our warehouse. I know what I can work with the distributor for ordering. And then he also is the same person who makes our holiday promotional seasonal offerings. So he's building those out right now with the ability to do it remotely and without having to do the middleman step of talking to the winemaker whenever he's got a chance to go check the warehouse to get the whole communication back and forth. So it's been a seamless way to make sure that we've got we know the inventory to fill orders and make the promotion plan the way that we're looking for.
I've got a couple, two different ones that come to mind. One is, looking at inventory planning as we grow. We added a new varietal a few years ago that had the same retail price point as our rosé, but a higher price point on the cost of fruit. So our margins were lower, and then you could quickly see that it was cannibalizing some of our rosé sales. And so we're making decisions do we want to keep that one or change our pricing structure so that we're not, shrinking our profit just to sell more wine. It doesn't make sense. So that's one just on the logistics side. The other one for us as we grow, our tasting room is a space constraint, right? As we add more wines, as we add more varietals, as we increase our size, space is always an issue. And by sending out daily reports and weekly reports as to how we're doing and how we're doing on inventory in particular, we can see when we're running low on inventory, but we want to have it in the tasting room. So like not too long ago, our chef even responded, is like, hey, if we put this on our tasting flight, I can do this special food with it. It'll help us push through those last, 14 cases, get those out the door before we had our new release wines come in next week. So we have a new spot to put the cases of wine that go into the tasting room. And, being able to daily see the inventory real time, you can have those conversations. Right? Those are the two that really, really stand out for me.
Yeah, and I think in the way past, the production and the sales weren't kind of jiving. The production would just make the wine, but they didn't really know, are we selling it? Are we doing it? And whereas the winemaker is very involved now in what we're selling. I think this is going to be, a better way to blend this particular wine or something like that. So it has brought really everybody together, and we do those, and we include all departments in our meetings, and like Larry said, the transparency is so good and helpful.
Yeah, that's great. And I think Larry, you touched on it a little bit in one of your examples, but having this real-time access of inventory and the sales data, has this helped you change your pricing approach or allocation methodology or different promotions that you guys are running, whether that's on a calendar year or more quickly on the fly?
Yeah, it has on us both quickly and on the fly and on planning. I mentioned the rosé earlier because it's one of the wines we've had from the beginning, so we want to keep it because it got a great margin for us. But bringing in other wines and seeing those other wines that are similar price that cost us more to produce them, it doesn't really make sense just to continue to push for different wines when you're literally eating into your own profit margin by offering those wines when the total volume of sales don't come up. And so that's one thing, and again, on the space constraints, as we're looking at things, because we use Red Chirp as yet another integration, when we want to send out a Red Chirp promotion, we're going to look, say, hey, what wines are we running low on that we want to push through before our next release or before this. And we can help prioritize those and help with inventory control and help make decisions on which wines we want to keep somehow, which wines we want to push through for the next release, and being able to see where we're stacking up, not only at a SKU level, but at a varietal level. We have a couple different cabs we sell. Do we need to push through some of those before we release another cab? So those are being able to just see those both at a micro level at the SKU, or even back out and say, okay, I want to look at all my cabs collectively. How am I doing by year, by varietal, or by vintage? That data is easy to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
For sure.
yeah, we do, something relatively similar as well, looking at that inventory live there, and, with the Red Chirp, like you said, not only are you able to see like you're low on one wine, but then you can use the integration to look, holistically at the entire environment, see that you're low on the wine, and then say, oh, who bought this wine in the past? Let's segment out that messaging just for them. And that's, InnoVint working with C7, working with Red Chirp in order to make, the sale happen in the end. And that has been key for us too, for moving those last couple of cases, or moving something that's really hasn't been moving the way that we expected it to.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of on the Red Chirp things, one of the cool things we've started using with Commerce7 is when we're doing Red Chirps, of being able to set like a sales attribute or a profile and tag it as Red Chirp, so we can see the revenue we're generating directly out of Red Chirp sales. The other thing we look at in combining wines, if we have something that's not moving fast, is looking at what wines are often sold together, right? Out of the tasting room. When people buy, when they buy a rosé, they often buy a Pinot, or they buy a Chardonnay or whatever, right? And if we need to help encourage one of those wines to finish selling, of doing a bundle sale or bundling those together as a package and promoting those that way to help push things through the, a better selling wine that we can see through the data that, hey, these often sell together. Let's put them together and help sell them at the same time.
And what's nice about that on the inventory side with Commerce7 and supply, we don't have to I don't have to create another inventory SKU for that bundle, which is super nice, because before we were, okay, here's this bundle, and well, you're not going to sell the same bundle every time. So I'll just throw that out there as thank you, Commerce7 and supply for, it's just depleting the inventory by the bottle, and we can make all the bundles we want. So
Awesome. So we're getting good questions coming in on the in the Q&A feature. I would encourage the audience to keep typing those questions in. We have some real experts on as panelists here, and so I think as we transition, Kevin, I'll kind of ask one last question, and then we'll move into the Q&A from the audience. you are clearly experts in your field and in your roles. Not everybody is in that position, right? We have people on the line that are come from wineries that are newer and or maybe are really just trying to grow their DTC program to the next level. So if you had to pick one piece of advice for some of those folks, what would that be if you know what framed around how to set themselves up for success in their DTC programs? Any of you? How about you, Cathy? Sorry.
Well, I would just say, again, don't be afraid of the technology. If you're just starting out or if something's not working for you, lean into that technology. It's out there. It's really good. There's some quirks you have to do, to make it work. And again, what reports you want out, but it, just dive in. That's what I would say. Dive in with your, and just start. And the nice thing is, reconcile every month as best you can, and just be aware of what the data going into your system is. It is true that old garbage in is garbage out, which we've
Yeah.
done that. And so, would just take the time to do it while you're diving in, and it will pay off in big dividends. It's expensive sometimes to
Mhm.
for these programs, but the time saved and the information you get is just well worth it to put that in your budget.
Yeah,
The technology in
I
your
would
budget.
agree with that. I think for me to give guidance would be, focus on your customer. And the
Mhm.
world is changing, the industry is changing, and most importantly, our customers are changing, right? The world is not the way it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. They want a hyper-focused, it's hyper-focused and knowing that they're heard and and they understand and we understand what they're interested in, and to use data to help you get that information, right? It's not a shotgun approach of here's an email to the 1,000 people, the 5,000 people on my email list about the cab sale we're going to have. Those emails should be targeted to the 500 people that have actually bought that cab in the past, that have showed interest in that cab in the past, as opposed to people that only buy white wines. Use the data to engage directly with your customer on a one-on-one basis, not a one-to-many basis, and leverage the technology that's out there, that's available. And as Cathy said, don't be afraid of it, right? I mean, I look back now and I'm very thankful that I spent the time and the energy and the resources to start with technology from day one, so that I wouldn't have to go back and figure out how to get all this stuff in there, because now I can get anything I want out of the systems. So you have to have the information in the systems to get it out of the systems, to know what your customers want so that you can deliver to your customers.
Yeah, I mean, those are both great. And I was gonna say one of those two things, but I will add on, don't be afraid to take risks and don't be afraid to pivot. The wine industry has changed so much in the last maybe 3 years, 4 years,
Yeah.
that it's okay to take risks and calculate your risks and know what you might be giving up or what the reward might be. But don't be afraid to pivot. Don't be afraid to take risks. And if I were to do it all over again, I would start with the right technology on day one, like Larry. I'm so jealous that you have all of your information in one spot. I have like decades of binders and notebooks of information out that wasn't available in the 70s. But I would, like Cathy even said, like make a line item on your budget for technology. Don't forget it. And a lot of people spend a lot of money on the vineyard and the grapes and the equipment, and then you get to the end and you don't have any money left for technology or marketing. But you can have all the wine in the world, but if you can't sell it effectively, you're not going to stay in business. So I would do your research and spend time thinking about it, but also save money and allocate it. Like, don't forget about technology.
Fantastic. So let's dive into some audience questions here. We're getting some good ones, and keep those coming. So this one is like a practical question. So Larry, I think you mentioned getting a daily report each morning. I'd be curious from all of you, maybe starting with you, Larry, like, yeah, just from a practical perspective, how are you viewing this data? Where is it coming from? That kind of thing. Share some insight into your daily process.
So we do two different ones technically. At the end of every day, whoever our tasting room manager was, either at our tasting room in Woodinville or at the estate winery here, they send an end of day email just as a general overview how the day went, right? And do they need anything? Were there any issues? Do they need more case goods? And just an overall picture of how the day went, and how the team did. On a more metric driven, so we also integrate with Wine Pulse, which
Mhm,
pulls data on a nightly basis from Commerce7 that gives us
mhm.
all those daily metrics, right? The AOV for each location, for our guest count, the bottles sold. I don't know. It's such a, and I think that company has mastered the art of um, delivering data less is more, of providing
Yes.
just the level of data needs. You can digest it and understand how the day went in 10 seconds just by looking at the email. And then we also get a weekly report from them, and we can get other things, and or at the same times, either through the Commerce7 website, which my entire team has access to drill down into the data, or through the Wine Pulse app as well, or the Wine Pulse website to be able to drill down and pull that data. So that's on a daily basis how we do it, as far as like when we're
Mhm.
looking at customer queries or different things, or how we're going to target emails. That's typically done through Commerce7, of using the query tool or the reporting, or the one of the different reporting tools that you guys have through the marketing profiles.
But when you were talking about the daily email, that was the Wine Pulse email that you were referencing. Is that right, Larry?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. How about Melissa, Cathy? Anything to add on that? Just mechanics wise?
Commerce7 has a closing, the closing data, and so I get the email, and the director of sales gets the email. Just but okay, here it is, and it takes less than a minute. Open it, just see real quick how what I can expect in the bank account, and what and how we did, and who was working there, and that kind of thing. So that's super fast. And so yeah, that's how we use it. And then also, of course, then we use it in our meetings, and we do a weekly restock of inventory from our warehouse into our tasting room. So then we're seeing, okay, this is, and sometimes they'll say, hey, I need this, or we've switched our vintage, and so sometimes that restock is helpful for us, because then we know, okay, this is what they expect to sell this week, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're not using Linux or Wine Pulse, who I know both do the same thing with the daily reports. But we use the closing report, as Cathy mentioned, and then the dashboard for the report summary with Commerce7 now is really nice to look at that and see your average order value, but then it breaks it down by channel and then by type of visitor, be it club or first time visitor, or anything like that. And it shows you your club edited rate. There's a lot of great things inside that dashboard that we keep a close eye on a probably weekly basis.
Awesome. So next question. This was directed specifically to Larry, but I would love to hear from all of you on this. And because I think, Larry, you mentioned you're 97% DTC. The question was, do you plan to add distribution? And if so, how will you do that? Is it a 3-year out plan? This audience member was similar in size and percentage DTC. So how do you think about whether or not that mix is going to change? And that's for all of you, about the change in mix from with DTC versus wholesale.
I think, we're starting to do some direct wholesale to restaurants, and
Mhm.
specialty wine shops around us. That's where our focus is going to be on, as far as non-DTC or wholesale, for the next probably 2, 3, 4 years. As we continue to grow, focus will maintain on DTC, because it's a higher margin, right? At some point, requires that we increase production above like 5,000 cases, which I kind of see as a step function. Where costs go up is when we would probably start looking to engage a distributor to expand beyond just doing it ourselves. Because then I think if you look at sizes of wineries, 5,000 cases is a pretty good sweet spot where you can bank some pretty good funds out of it. But then it seems you have to move to 10 or 20,000 cases a year. And I want to be in a position when I do go seek out a distributor, quite bluntly, I want them to want me more than I want them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we're not actively going that direction right now. And we're going to do a lot of it boots on the ground with our own team, because we can deliver a more personal experience even to the specialty wine shops, which are going to help promote us when they know us personally, as opposed to some distributor just showing up. So it's in the road plan, but it's, to actually engage a distributor is probably 5+ years away.
I think for our smaller brand that just opened 9 months ago, we have about 5,000 cases for our first year for that one. And that's a new brand for us in a new location. Right now we are 4,998 cases DTC. I've distributed 2 cases so far.
Yeah.
But with the other brand being mostly distribution, we're familiar with the pathways for it. For us, the limitation is going to come probably once we're a year in and we figure out the cadence and how many folks we can actually get through our tasting room. It's like, okay, so either we decrease production or we find a way to increase reach through distribution. So now at 9 months in, I am starting to think about what that looks like, whether I'm hiring someone to self-distribute or if I'm going to reach out to a local small distributor to give us a hand with that.
All right. I think we're close on time, but we're going to make room for one more question here. I'll put this out, and any of you guys feel free to jump in. There's a question that we touched on a little bit. I think there was an example shared talking through the sale through rates of different vintages and how that affects grape purchases, and what type of wine to bottle. Can any of you elaborate a little bit more on what you're looking at and the decision making steps that come to mind as you're thinking through bottling and future planning for different varietals of fruit coming out?
I think I spend a lot of time on that, especially as a growing winery, as to how much fruit to buy now for, like I said, 2 or 3 years from now. And so we look at, I'm looking more at trends and projections. So now that I've got 4 years of tasting room data, which is really when the world started for us, for all intents and purposes, I can, at least see growth patterns, not only at a macro level of what's our total growth, but in a micro level, whether it be at a variety level or a particular, vineyard location or a particular SKU, of looking at those and saying, hey, if this trajectory stays within these, margins of error, what do I need to buy now for releasing in 2 or 3 years now, so that I'm not, running out of wine in those varietals, but at the same time not building up a massive backlog in those varietals. So that's one level we look at. The other level is, just the cost of the fruit and what we can sell that variety of wine for. Like I said, I have a great source for the price for the fruit we use for our rosé, but I have higher prices for some of our other varietals that are basically sold at the same price point. And so I would rather focus on promoting and increasing sales in a higher margin product than another one that's comparably priced. So those are really the 2 biggest things that I look for. And especially the first 2 years, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, how much fruit to buy now for 2 or 3 years from now, when our growth, especially back then, was really unknown. I hope I got it right. We'll find out.
I think it's an every year kind of question. What do we need? And the whites, the rosé, we also make a rosé, we make a Sauvignon Blanc. Those are bottled very quickly. Those are kind of turned around, but it's the 3 years out that's just the hard one. Yeah, like Larry said, we just have to go on trends and what we think and what we're hearing from our distributors, what's being sold in the tasting room. Are people really into Zinfandels, and we make 5 Zinfandels, and so which which one of those is selling the best, and how can we translate that into a wholesale sale. We sell four wines mainly, our core four in wholesale, and then the rest are mostly in our tasting room, just those small lots. But do we increase that production from 600 to 1,800 cases, or do we better go back to 200 cases? It's an educated guess, as really as everything it seems to be in the wine industry is right now. So,
but I think having the data is what makes that guess a whole lot more educated.
yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, I know we're a little bit over time, but want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you, panelists, Melissa, Larry, Cathy. You guys have been great, super insightful conversation and examples and takeaways that I think we'll all be equipped to take home and bring back to our peers at our wineries. And Jeff, Commerce7, thank you guys so much for co-hosting this with us today. As mentioned, this is recorded. We will get this out to you shortly thereafter. And for some of the questions that didn't get answered, we'll try to follow up with you guys and stay connected. Until next time, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks everybody.